Hey y'all, this is AL Thick Madame, and this is going to be a story time. Okay, I haven't done that in a while. In all honesty, it has been very shocking to me how many people will come on my videos, no matter how they learned of my existence, and they will go to some of my highest viewed videos and tell me that I'm lying about what I'm discussing in said videos. Like my videos that are about rape, molestation, and stuff like that. They really will tell me that I'm lying and I created all of this stuff and I'm trying to do all this stuff for clout and trying to make it seem like I'm getting paid. And I'm like, none of those things are true. And in all honesty, most people do not understand that the reason why I even got on my channel and started uploading was because I was going through a lot in my relationship with my ex, and it was actually my escape. And it was coupled with the fact that I actually have friends who don't watch most of the shows that I do recap reviews on, or if it's something that has happened and I'm doing a thoughts video, sometimes they don't care nothing about what's going on with that. But a lot of people do when I get on here. So it's like a completely different audience, which is fine. It's cool. It is what it is. So it's really been my outlet. And I typically don't even like talking to people, even though it's painfully obvious that I'm not in front of y'all like right now. But you know what I mean. I have stage fright. I really do have stage fright. And it's crippling. You wouldn't think that. And I went to school to be a social worker. It's crazy because if I'm doing social work related things, all that fright goes all the way away. I have had to do case closure meetings, which is where you take a case or however many cases, usually it's just one in most departments or whatever. You take a case that was open to the Department of Human Resources to a meeting where there are two people from each department that are sitting in on said meeting, and you introduce the case to everybody that's there, and you tell everybody why it was introduced to the department, what happened, and why you want to close it, because hopefully those people actually have been able to be resourceful on their own and don't need the department for help or whatever was going on anymore. So yeah, I had to introduce a couple of cases and wasn't scared at all. And I really cannot stand. Like, I'm so serious how crippling it is. I thought I was gonna be nervous then, but I wasn't. I was just like, it must just really be the fact that that is what is meant for me to be. And when I get back into it, y'all, I'm very excited. I know it's a lot. Like, if you ain't never done it before, you don't understand. You do not get paid enough. You do not get paid enough to do what I was doing. I was a social worker briefly in Child Protective Services. It's a lot. It's a whole lot. They require a whole lot of you, but it is what it is. So anyway, y'all, yeah, that's why I was, initially drawn to come on here and start uploading. So anyway, y'all, let me go ahead and get into the story time. Y'all, I am from Montgomery, Alabama, and I moved from Montgomery to Raleigh, North Carolina because that's where my ex was living. And in my mind, I felt like, oh, well, he was basically saying to me that since it's long distance, he doesn't want to keep on doing it like that. And he thinks that something is going to happen if we don't, start living together, at least in the same city. And like a dummy, I believed him. And in my mind, I should have just been like, well, if it's meant to be, it's going to happen. So whatever, y'all. I just never thought that I would do something like that. But I was dumb. It is what it is. So anyway, months later, he got a car, and the car would just sit there in the yard because he did not have a license. Well, I was actually shocked that he let it sit there and didn't just go on ahead and just do what he wanted to do, because he's very bullheaded. Anybody who knows him, you would understand that he marches to the beat of his own drum when it comes to things that he feels like he is above. There are times that I've talked to him and he will make you think that he is invincible, and it's like, nah, Somebody could shoot you right now and you'd be dead. Like he would really make you think that he's gonna live forever. So anyway, he convinced me. Well, I was able to basically convince him to allow me to teach him how to drive. I passed both of my tests on the first try, so I'm just like, okay, well, let me teach you. He let me. So we ended up going to the fairgrounds. Now, anybody who's from Raleigh, North Carolina, y'all know how big that parking lot is. If you're from there or you visited, you know how big that parking lot is. So we got there, and I basically was teaching him the way that I was taught. Went to an empty parking lot. We were learning acceleration. We were learning how to brake, learning how to park properly within the lines, and all that good stuff. So don't know why, but I noticed that his car started overheating. Now, quick, back story as to how I even knew that that's what was happening. So one day when I was back home, I was minding my business, y'all. Was I in college at the time? I think I was in college at the time, but it was a weekend and I had just came from seeing one of my friends or something. And my car started overheating. Now, at the time, I didn't know what it was because there was like random condensation on the inside of my car that was happening. And then, I don't know, it's like a light went off. Like, that's the only reason why I even knew. I had a random red light that went off. Now, keep in mind, for those of y'all who don't know and are new here, my daddy was a mechanic for the state of Alabama. So, for me, anytime anything popped off with my car, I don't care if it was a random little pop and it was just literally from a pebble that it was up under the car for what I was driving, I would let my daddy know about it. So there was never any issues with my car. So I was like, oh no, what is going on over here? So I pulled over on the side of the road because it's like a little bit of condensation was on the inside of the car, and then it started to kind of like smoke under the hood. I was like, what in the world? Y'all, I told my daddy what it was, and he was like, oh, your car overheating. Did you pull over on the side of the road? I was like, yeah, daddy, I pulled over on the side of the road. He was like, all right, just sit there for like 15, 20 minutes. 30 if you don't feel safe enough or confident enough that you'll be okay. And just go to the closest store you can get to and get a gallon of water and put it in your car. You just need some radiator fluid. I mean, he said you needed some antifreeze. I was like, okay, because like it had been a ridiculously hot summer, so my air conditioner was wide open. I ain't think nothing of it. So that's what it was. I hadn't, my daddy hadn't gotten to doing any maintenance on my car at that time, like making sure the levels were what it needed to be at that time. That's what it was, because I stayed at the house, traveling, going wherever I was going to go throughout the city, and sometimes going outside of the city, whether they knew about it or not. But yeah, it was so hot that year. So anyway, he told me that that's what it was, and he was like, that'll get you until you get to the house. He said that it probably done like pretty much ran all the way out. So I was like, okay. So then I called him and I told him when I was going to get back on the road. He was like, all right. Now at the time, he was up the street at our relative's shop where he works because he is retired. He retired from the state of Alabama as a mechanic. The same year that I was graduating high school, everybody was like, are you all right? Like, y'all don't understand. Everybody was like, wait a minute, what is going on here? It was so random. But anyway, he still gets money from them. He makes his own hours. He do what he want to do. The people live for my dad still to this day. Even though he'll take a break, y'all, it's just a whole nother story going into that. So anyway, I told him where I was. He was like, all right, I'll be there in a minute. So I was like, okay. I'm like, you told me to just creep on to the house. That's what I'm going to do. So he ended up popping my hood, and he was like, yeah, that's what it is. And he just ended up bringing me some water instead of me going to the store. Because the store wasn't there was a Winn-Dixie, like, off the exit. Because I was just going to run up in there, get a jug of water, and leave. Because I ain't had no water or nothing like that in my car. So he was like, you could just put a little bit in there until you get to the house. So you ain't got to worry about it doing what it's doing. And then I'll put some of the antifreeze in the car. I'll put the antifreeze in the car when I get to home, because he was still working. So I was like, all right, cool. So he just came up to me. He ended up doing it anyway. So I was like, okay. So anyway, y'all, I creeped on to the house because I was a little scared, because I really was going to set it off and go somewhere else. But I was like, let me go home. So anyway, back to Raleigh. So that's the only reason why I knew, because he didn't have, I don't remember there being like a red signal. I think his thing went all the way over to the H. And I just so happened to look over there. I was like, oh, no, your car overheating. Cut the car off, park the car real quick and cut it off. And like, I was calm about it because I was like, oh, I had to do this before. And, I was like, let's wait 15 minutes. And so I was like, well, just to be on the safe side, because his car is not the same make, model, or nothing that mine was, I was like, well, we just gonna wait like 30 minutes for it to cool off. Cool. And then, like, I told him what I was gonna do, which was I was gonna wait for it to cool off. Then I was gonna take the top off of the reservoir and add a little bit of antifreeze or water or whatever I had at the time in the car. And so, y'all, I waited the extra time because I was just like, I don't know, whatever. Y'all, tell me why. As soon as I tried to touch and turn the cap on the reservoir that holds the antifreeze, it turned itself the rest of the way and blew up. Y'all, as big as I am, it blew me up into the sky. Had glasses on, blew them off my face. And what happened was, because my hand was right there, it blew my hand out of the way. So I essentially was like this. So my glasses protected my eyes. That was the one, y'all, that was the one time I was wearing glasses. Now, my ex didn't really care for me wearing glasses or whatever, right, y'all? And I had contacts. That was one day I was wearing glasses. I was like, man, I would have been blind if I had not have been wearing my glasses, y'all. And I still got them glasses to this day. I don't know how in the world they ain't melted to pieces. But what happened was the buildup from how hot the car was, it literally was bubbling. The antifreeze was bubbling in the car. The antifreeze that was still left over, it had created this pressure. And so when I tried to undo the cap, I barely even turned the cap, y'all, and it was a wrap. Blew me, like I lifted up off the ground and was on the ground trying to figure out what in the world just happened. Y'all, when I tell y'all, all this was burnt because like I said, my eyes were protected. Hair, all my edges, most of my edges were burned. My hand was burned so bad, y'all. I felt like I was on fire. When I finally realized, after I got up on the ground, I was like, oh, okay, y'all, I composed myself, found my glasses, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm on fire. We ain't had no water in the car. Y'all, when I tell y'all, I was so glad that they had a gas station. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go up here and get some ice. I ain't really had no cash like that on me. I mean, like, not really. So I'm like, oh, well, they gonna see us in emergency. They'll give me some ice. So anyway, y'all, let me help y'all understand how crazy this day was. It was already kind of far away because, like I said, the parking lot was huge. Had to get all the way over there, cross the street. Like, if you know where it is, I had to cross the street to get to the gas station that was over there, right? Y'all, tell me who was filling up over there? Who was filling up, y'all? The fire department was filling up. I was just like, they got the fire truck out here filling up. It was so crazy. So I asked them, I was like, oh, this might sound crazy, but, and I think my ex was trying to ask some stuff too. And I was like, this might sound crazy, but I got a chemical burn, I guess you could say. I told them what happened and they were like, well, it's best for you to get ice. And that's what I was going to get anyway. And they said they could take me to the hospital if I wanted them to. And I was like, no, that's okay. I'm just going to take my chances with the ice because I ain't got no money for no ambulance ride / whatever payment they was going to end up having me to, I know it wasn't going to be no ambulance because it was a fire truck. But in my mind, I'm just like, I ain't got no bill money for that. Like, y'all ain't finna do the same stuff that I'm finna do right now is what's going to do what needs to do for me. I'm not blind because I had my glasses on, so I'm good. Y'all, went up in the store. So he and I are telling this man, I'm on fire. Like, y'all don't, I ain't never felt nothing like this in my life. My hand is toe down. You can't really, it's almost non-existent now, but I can see where it was. But yeah, because I was the one who went through it. But yeah, you can't really see it like this. But like I said, at the end of this video, I will have the pictures as a little slideshow for you to see what my hand looked like. Had I known that it was gonna do what it did to my edges, y'all, I would have documented that as well, so y'all could see what it was and what it is now, and why I do what I do to my hair. So anyway, y'all, I'm up in the store. I'm explaining to the dude what happened. That man charged me for a cup of ice. And I went in the bathroom. I ran cold water as long as I could on my hand, because I was like, okay, I got to get this cold water on my hand. I got to get cold water, running cold water, running cold water, running cold water for like 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. Because I am on fire. This had to be second, third degree burns that was happening to me. Like, I just could not believe. And like, I was burning up here. And so I put ice on myself or whatever up there and doing the most with that. But yeah, I was just like, oh my gosh, burning. Literally felt like a fire was just sitting on my wrist and forearm because of the chemical that had blown up and blew me into the air. Y'all, I was so disgusted that this man charged me for ice when I needed it. It's not like I was lying. He could see my hand. My hand was toe down. Like, he could see my hand. My hand at the time was red and all of that. A completely different color than me, all of that. And I'm over here looking crazy. It's already hot. Just had to walk through the parking lot and walk across the street, do all that to get to you. And you charge me for ice? I've had people to give me ice and beverages and all this other stuff for free when I came in there willingly, like able to pay. And he over here, he charged me for the ice. I was so done. It was a cup of ice. I'm like, you charged me for a cup of ice? You tried me. But anyway, ended up paying for the ice. And, you know, I was just like, okay, I just want to get home. And my mind just feel like I'll be okay once I get home. I'm still not realizing the severity of the situation. So we got to get home, right? Okay. So we cranked the car. The car seemed like it's all right. Y'all lies. Y'all, we had to keep turning the car off. It just got to the point where he was driving. I forgot if he was driving or I was driving. Anyway, the car started overheating. We all the way on the other side of town, y'all. I was so done. I was so done. Where we lived was, if anybody is from Raleigh, North Carolina, we lived in, we eventually moved to this apartment complex at the time. It was called Regatta. That's where we lived. After we ended up moving, because we were living in a house like maybe 5 minutes away from there. But anyway, y'all, it was literally like 5 minutes away from the small Walmart and less than 5 minutes away from this Kroger. Like, everything where we lived, everything was so close by. Like, the mall was like 5 to 7 minutes away. Everything was in close quarters. It was amazing living there. I ain't gonna lie, because everything was up the street. So anyway, y'all, finally get to the house. So yeah, I told y'all that so y'all could understand how far away it was. And it took us like, I don't know how long. It was so bad, y'all. I was like, oh my gosh. Just like the sun went down all fast. And I was just like, all of a sudden, it was like dark outside by the time we finally got to the house, y'all. It was so bad. And so like, he had to keep cutting the car off because he was scared that it was going to blow up or whatever. I think he drove. Because my hand was toe down. So I'm nervous already because he cannot drive. And we got to get to the house. So anyway, finally get to the house. I'm icing my hand the whole time. And in my mind, I'm just like, oh, well, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and it'll be fine. Lies. Burning. And I'm constantly applying ice, constantly rinsing it off with freezing cold water, letting my arm just sit in that all the time, y'all. So eventually I start healing. It wasn't that bad as far as how it felt up here, but I didn't realize how bad it actually was. Y'all, forget my wrist and my forearm. I have a widow's peak. Like, on my dad's side of the family, a lot of them have widow's peaks, right? My widow's peak, my hair, I started healing. Y'all, wiped my widow's peak clean off. I was like, oh my gosh. Now keep in mind, y'all, I was still relaxing my hair. I ain't never had a problem with thickness or none of that. So it's not like, oh, well, you was already bald anyway. You already ain't had no edges anyway. I had edges. I ain't never had no issues with having edges or having hair or thickness and length or none of that anyway. So, y'all, I didn't have my widow's peak no more. This, you know how you have like people have like an edge up or whatever, they do like this. This part was gone, y'all. I was just like, oh my God, y'all, I looked a fool. because I started healing, and literally as I was healing and, I wasn't burning anymore, I was applying like cocoa butter or whatever, because I know I had a cousin back home when he worked at Church's Chicken when we were in high school. He ended up burning himself with some hot grease at work, and he ended up putting that on his hand, and it looked like he never got burned. So I was like, oh, well, once the pain goes away, I'm going to start putting that on me. So I did. And eventually, one day, my skin did what it wanted to do as a part of healing, and it came off, and hair came with it. So I actually was under the impression that I would never have edges again. It was a mess. Like, it was crazy. So my hand was healing, but I was depressed about my hair, because I've always been all about hair. Anybody who's known me, every time I would do my hair, everybody would live for it, and then they would instantly be like, "Ooh, I can't wait to what she gonna do. I can't wait to see what she gonna do next." Because I always was changing my hair. I was always doing something to my hair. Everybody lived for my hair, so I didn't feel confident in doing my hair. I didn't feel confident doing nothing as it pertained to my hair. So don't know why, but I eventually started doing research, and I was about to buy the miracle drops, or whatever they call them, that the Brat's girlfriend sells and has gotten rich off of. I'm glad that I didn't, because a lot of people reported that mess took the little hair they did have out. Or if they had thick hair and they thought that it was going to continuously maintain what they had, it actually ended up taking their hair out and burning them. It felt like acid on them and all this other stuff. I saw so many negative reviews at that time. At that time, that was 2010. I saw so many negative reviews on that thing. I was like, well, I don't know what I can do. Y'all, I eventually came across, I don't even know how, eventually came across Jamaican black castor oil. So I was like, okay, I mean, I know about castor oil. And back home, we take castor oil, we ingest that to make some stuff happen. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But I never used it as far as putting it on my scalp, on my skin, in my hair, none of that. So I was like, well, it couldn't hurt. I'm willing to try what I can try. So I started applying it. And I didn't have no issues with none of the other parts of my hair. So my hair was already super thick. And it's summertime. My hair was already growing like a weed anyway. Because y'all know the added moisture in the air and all that stuff, the humidity, it just adds to the process. And that's why people typically say that our hair grows the fastest if you live in a tropical environment, or if you just live in the United States in areas that experience extreme cold and all that stuff. And then summertime hits and all that good moisture is a part of your routine now. And so, yeah, my hair was already growing like a weed. And then I added the stuff. So at first I was kind of skeptical, and then I had to kind of hype myself up. Y'all, I started to see results. And I was just like, it was making my hair maintain even more thickness and strength. And I was just like, wow. My widow's peak started coming back in. My widow's peak is probably at 85 to 95%. And pretty much everything else came back. So most of my edges came back. I was very shocked, because I actually thought that was the end of them. Because I couldn't believe I was wiping my edges off because my skin healed. But yeah, y'all, that was very traumatizing. And I was just like, wow. But anyway, like I said at the beginning of this video, a lot of people love to say that I'm making up stuff for clout and trying to make it seem like, oh, well, she act like she just have been through all this stuff. She just know everything, don't she? No. My ex used to even say stuff like that. Like, I legit have been through certain situations. Like, it just so happens that I know about certain things because it happened to me. Like, how you gonna get mad at somebody else's experience of what actually happened to them? That's ridiculous to me. But yeah, after I'm done with this, y'all will see little pictures that will show my hand. And like I said before, had I known that my edges were going to do what they did, I would have documented that as well. And I was depressed. So I was just like, wow, that was a lot. Anyway, hopefully y'all enjoyed this story time. I'm about to get some relaxation in and watch some more anime and all that good stuff. Y'all be safe, stay warm, and be good. See y'all later. Bye.